Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer and career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. From career struggles and anxiety to feeling like nothing is ever going to work out, I'm here to explore all the messy stuff that breaks us down and builds us up. So join me as we transform ourselves and finally ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about taking a side gig. When you are kind of struggling, freelancing, trying to make things work, and you take a side gig. And I'm going to share the story of me working at J.Crew part-time. Now, I don't know if a lot of people know that I did this. It wasn't something that I was broadcasting. And even if you're like, I don't want to work retail, that's really not the point of the story. The story is about the kind of feelings we have around having to take an extra side job, and then kind of 3 lessons that I learned from taking this because it was a really valuable experience. It was kind of fun and it was kind of weird. And it was like all the things that I feel all my career stories have, like all those little elements. But before we dive into that, I thought because we're doing kind of a fashion-based episode, because I worked at J.Crew, I thought it was like really important to discuss. Well, we can't really discuss, but I feel like my feelings need to be known about the Devil Wears Prada Part 2. We need to talk about this. What was that? What happened? Where did Miranda go? I need to know. I just saw it last week. I hadn't been to the movie theater in years. And of course, the first one, that's a classic. Had to go see Part 2. And I think I was like 15 minutes in and I looked at my friend and I was like, where's Miranda? Where's the Ice Queen? Where's the dragon? She was so much softer. She was a totally different character. I was so upset by this that when I came home, I couldn't stop talking to Declan about it. And that's probably why I'm still discussing it to you guys. It was like Meryl Streep hadn't even watched her former performance. That's how far off the spectrum I thought it was. I thought it was so weird. She was like laughing in it and she was like too schmaltzy, like too sweet, too like, no. That moment with Stanley Tucci just was like a big no for me. So I'm giving the movie a solid 5 out of 10. Very watchable, but very forgettable. And yeah, of course, you're going to see some great clothes and things like that. But the whole movie fell apart for me because of that performance. I don't understand it. I'm confused. And obviously, yeah, I'm still talking about it. Okay. Now let's move on to my fashion story. I am actually not super into clothes, more makeup, things like that. I do love jewelry. So, but of which J.Crew had some great jewelry at the time, actually. Can we just like acknowledge the bib necklace for just a second, right? Okay, so I started working at J.Crew in 2013. It came to Canada and a new location was opening up at the end of 2013 and they were looking for people to work there. So how did I even get to the point of that, like me needing to get a job at J.Crew or me wanting to get a job at J.Crew? How did this all happen? Well, I was freelancing at the time. I had left a full-time job, I think in 2010, and it was a great art director job. And but basically after my dad passed away in 2010, I was just really not in a great space. So I left a full-time job and started freelancing. And I think, obviously, I'm guessing by 2013, things were a bit rough and tumble because I remember feeling very isolated at home, not quite having enough work. You know, when you're a freelancer and you kind of have enough work that you're busy, but it's not quite enough that you feel that you are comfortable financially. I think Declan's job was also a little bit piecemeal at the time, so it was just not great. And I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was like, kind of frantic feeling. Do you know that feeling? You're like, I just don't know what to do. Should I just find more freelance? Now, I have tons of experience having worked retail for years. And I think I somehow was on Indeed and just typed in the word retail. And I'm a big fan of any of these job platforms, these job sites, to just type as few words as possible and fish through all the listings. That's personally my strategy. And J.Crew posted that they were looking for, people to work in their new store. And they had one in one mall, but they were opening a second one. And I floated the idea in my head. I asked one of my best friends and she's like, yeah, do it. She was like, I think you should really do this. Like you kind of need to, she wasn't saying get a life outside the house, but I feel like it was like that. And the thing about J.Crew that was a really appealing brand, well, I liked the clothes, but tons of color, like kind of high vibe. When I think back, I wasn't conscious of this, but it's like very high vibration. There's a lot of mixing and matching. It's preppy, but it's fun. And there was like, yeah, great jewelry. And I just thought, maybe this will be good. The location was going to be like literally a 7-minute drive from my house. And I thought, okay, so I applied and I got called for an interview, and I had to, of course, go out and buy a J.Crew outfit. So I went to the location that was open, got the outfit. My friend came with me. I think I spent $300 on the outfit, which, it was going to take me a while to make that. And then, so there was like this cattle call of interviews, and I went into it, and I got selected to work there. And guys, let me tell you how much the job paid. You ready for it? $13 an hour. That's what I started at, $13 an hour. And truly, it was somewhat about the money, but not really, because again, I felt like I just needed to do something. Long term, I thought maybe this is a company that I would want to get involved with from the corporate side. So there was that thought. But the truth was, even if it was a small amount of money, there would be better cash flow. There would be like every 2 weeks you're getting something, and this would kind of help. And I'm also not going to lie, the discount was amazing. So this was also part of the reason why I tell this story is because, not because you need to get a job to get a discount, but there's so many beneficial things that can happen when you kind of just break out of your comfort zone or do something different or take a random side job. I felt this was a little bit out of the blue, even though I had retail experience. I hadn't worked retail in a very long time. So I get the job. It's $13 an hour. Congratulations for making barely minimum wage. And they were opening new stores, so there was like full training. And so I dove headfirst into this job. And I'm going to tell you something. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. It was learning so much about visual merchandising. There was a visual merchandising person in the store pretty well every shift. And so I was watching them work. I learned how they put things together. This was so helpful when I started working at Blush Cosmetics just a few years later. And I learned about styling. So many people had great style there, way better than me. They knew how to put an outfit together. This is where I first learned what a selfie was, because there was all these young kids working there. I was not the oldest, but I was one of the older ones. And I learned how to fold a sweater like nobody's business, a shirt like nobody's business. And I got so many free clothes. Like, it was, if something was on sale, you got an extra 50% off as an employee. If it was on clearance, you got an extra 75% off. Like, it was free. And I stocked up on clothes for myself, for Declan, friends, family. Like, I still have some pieces from those years. I think it's probably time to let them go, but it was really great for that. And it kind of got me into routine. And this is one of the things that is helpful when you need to just kind of get a side gig. And I'm going to talk more about the psychology of that, the kind of brain stuff that comes up, or the stories we tell ourselves. But it just was really helpful to have something set in my schedule a couple days a week is what I was working. And it was a distraction because I'm on the screen all the time as a graphic designer. It was it was a contrast to what I was doing every single day. And I really liked that. Got me socializing. I would say this is probably one of the few jobs, if not the only job, where I didn't stay in touch with anybody or stay friends with anybody. I didn't really click with anybody. There was one assistant manager. She was a treat. She was a bit of a challenge because she was like a camp counselor on steroids, kind of like, she just struck me as the person who wanted to be a camp counselor forever. She probably still was a camp counselor. She just had that vibe to her. And she wasn't the best to work with. No one really loved working with her. But for the most part, it was fine. I just learned a ton. And so the psychology part that's difficult is, listen, I had some pretty nice jobs before this, like nice corporate jobs. And then you're suddenly finding yourself working part-time in a store. Now, that can be difficult for people because they feel like they're going down the ladder of life. Like, they're just going, or down the ladder in their career, right? I feel like I didn't see it that way, but I did have to wrestle with it a little bit. I remember there was one moment where someone from art director job, one of my previous corporate jobs, came in shopping for a sweater and I checked her out. So I had worked with her. She was like in the marketing side. She was rising up the corporate ladder and I basically checked out her Tippy sweater. There were these sweaters called Tippy sweaters at the time. And she looked at me with like curious eyes, like, hey, what you doing? And I was like, folding sweaters, like I don't know, like I don't really embarrass easily. I think I've mentioned that before. But it was a little bit like, yeah, I'm working at J.Crew. Now, she's buying a Tippy sweater for, I think, $118 retail. I probably owned 7 of them and maybe paid $30 for each of them. So I had a nice closet of sweaters. But there was that moment where I was like, a little bit uncomfortable. But here's like one of the first things I learned from taking a side gig or doing something in addition to the job that you have. And especially if it's because you need it financially, is that you really need to do what you need to do, even if other people judge you. Like your friends, family, people are going to have something to say about you doing this, especially if your, family or your culture really pushes, rising up that corporate ladder in a very linear way. People are going to say stuff or they're going to have their opinions, but you have to do what you need to do. And I definitely felt like I was doing what I needed to do and what I wanted to do. I just thought it would be fun. It didn't need to be something heavy. I didn't need to be having some like really crazy, cool, wild, extra, side project or anything that had like a lot of status to it. I just needed to kind of make a little bit extra money and maybe talk to people a little bit more. And I was going to learn something, and I definitely did learn something. I definitely did. So it's really doing what you need to do and coming back to that whenever you decide to either leave your job, change your job, get something different. I have a couple friends doing dog sitting on the side right now because they feel like that's a great way for them to make extra money. Whatever you need to do, just do it. Like you do not need anyone's permission to do it. If it sounds like a good fit, then just try it. Like the thing was, if I went training for this job, I could quit anytime. And I really only lasted about a year because I ended up getting some freelance work in studio not too long after that. If you've listened to the chicken sticker episode, there was a bit of an overlap that came around that time. And that paid pretty well, actually. Even though it wasn't my favorite job, it paid well. So it wasn't something that I had to keep doing, but I did do it. And I just did it because it was something I wanted to do. And then the second thing I want to bring up is that you really don't know what good is going to come out of something, so you do have to just try it. Now, in all honesty, this gig didn't really lead to much. I probably could have pushed and moved up to like selling more and doing things and maybe moved into their corporate office. Maybe. But in fact, J.Crew pulled out of Canada. They didn't even last 5 years, the retail stores. So I don't think there was too much long term, but I didn't really know that at the time. But I wasn't feeling like, oh, this is a company I want to work for, or it wasn't like a true like, oh, this is amazing. I felt more connected to the Blush Cosmetics brand. That was more in alignment to me. But you just don't know what good is going to come out of something. So you cannot predict. You cannot imagine. I didn't know that I was going to really learn so much about styling at the time. And just kind of, I really upped my fashion game at the time. I feel like I looked pretty together, and I feel like maybe I need to relearn some of those skills because I just, was wearing a lot of color and just feeling great about what I was wearing. So you just don't know what good's going to come out of something. So just try it. Like if it's not for you, you get to leave. There's, unless you're signing some crazy contract for something, I could walk away. I just sent an email one day, like I can't do this anymore. And that's it. Right. So, and then the third thing I want to point out is taking action is the most important step. It always comes down to taking action. I could have just kept sitting there lamenting over the fact that I need more work or I want to do more work and I don't know what to do. What should I do? And you sit there and you play that game in your head, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Eventually, you just have to make a decision and go for it. So when I got the call for the interview and got hired, I was like, I'm just doing this. Like I could sit here and analyze it for 50 years, whether I should do this, whether it's a good move. whether it's a waste of time, maybe it's not worth the money, like this sad little hourly salary. But I just decided to go for it. And this is what is key for making any career decision. Sitting on something too long, it's not a great habit to get into. And you want to try and be decisive and just make a decision. Remember, I had a friend, and such a benign example, but a great one. She needed to get a new car, and she couldn't decide whether to buy a new car or lease a new car. She had never leased, so she was looking down that whole world. And then she was going on for months. And eventually her other friend was like, dude, just decide what you're going to do. This is not you pick a decision, do it, and just sign whatever and move on with your life. Get the freaking car. And she's like, you're totally right. She needed that kind of kick to be I'm just going to do this. And I do feel that because I've kind of jumped around so many different jobs, I don't put as much weight into what that decision is going to be. Am I, ruining my life? Or some people think that. They're like, if I go work at J.Crew part-time, everyone's going to laugh at me. I'm ruining my life. I'm just a sad salesperson. Well, first of all, working retail is a very tough job, and it requires so many skills. I feel like everyone should do a customer service job at some time in their life, but it's really easy to talk yourself out of things and just think that you're why are we making these decisions such a big deal? Yes, it's your career. And there's going to be times where there's huge decisions. Do I have to move, across the country for this job, or do I stay? What am I going to do? But if you're just thinking about, I need extra income, I'm going to get something on the side, I would highly recommend not overthinking it too much. Just see what comes up and literally try anything. And there's so many things people are doing. As I said, the dog sitting thing, my friends are making some great money doing that, and they love being around the animals. And there's just so many more options. You don't have to go and work in a store for a sad $13 an hour and do that. So I'm happy that I did this job. Again, it was just about a year, but I have never forgotten that I took the initiative and I did what I needed to do. And I didn't really beat myself up about it for too long. And that little bit of extra money was really helpful. And the extra clothes was great. That was unexpectedly a really great bonus, because I didn't realize how much better I would feel about having kind of a new updated wardrobe and kind of having a new kind of fresh look and feel. I do actually want to have a stylist on the show, because I feel like that's a really important topic. It's not just about clothes, and we're not talking about having a Devil Wears Prada wardrobe, but just kind of feeling good about what you're wearing and things like that. But bottom line is, actually probably don't go work retail, because you're not going to make much money unless it's one where you can, it's commission based. For sure you can do well, but look around. Don't feel bad about yourself if you do need to get something on the side, and just try it and see what feels good. I have another friend. She loves to waitress part-time. And I know that sounds crazy, but she's a people person. She's a total extrovert. She loves that. So she works, and then to make extra money, she's doing that. For all of you Canadians, I keep talking about chocolate chips in every episode. They literally were $16.99 when I went to the store yesterday for unsweetened chocolate chips. It's crazy out there. So it makes sense that people are looking for extra things to do on the side. So that's my little J.Crew story. It was a fun ride, and I am hoping that the bib necklace makes its way back, because I still have some from my collection over a denim shirt. Do you remember that look? That was the height of that whole era, 2013, 2014. You know what? I loved it. I'm here for it, and I hope it comes back. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated, and you are doing just fine. See you next time.